Hello, everybody. We are ready to start our next session. We're going to be talking about supercharging pre-award analyses with AI. So if you were not in my last session, my name is Suzuki-Scull. I am one of the product managers here at TechnoMile with a focus on the contract suite and pre-award management, as well as Transform Copilot and Mila. And this is Kevin Brancato.
And I lead the product team here at TechnoMile. And so Mai's going to do all the hard work, and I get to give the demo.
So we're going to have a lot of fun today.
All right.
All right, so I am going to do a brief recap of Transform Copilot, which we talked about in the last session. But then we're going to dive deep into Transform Copilot for pre-award specifically. So last session we were talking about how to use it for your contracts process. Now we're going to talk about using it for your solicitations, how to manage them more effectively and be more rapid in your responses. Then we'll talk about utilizing summaries. And finally, we'll talk about Mila, which is our digital assistant, very exciting tool that we're going to be rolling out. All right, Transform Copilot for pre-award. So again, a recap on our release themes for contracts. So our main focus is right now on the contracts team is streamlining your pre-award analysis so that your team can spend more time doing value-added activities, speeding award intake, so you're limiting the amount of manual data entry your team has to do to get contracts in the system, and then simplifying post-award risk and compliance analysis using AI agents and summaries to ensure that you have the most relevant information at your fingertips. So what is TechnoMile pre-award management? This is a tool that we implemented which enhances both your CLM and your growth solutions. It's an add-on and it streamlines solicitation, proposal, and negotiation workflows. It helps you analyze the solicitations that are coming in. Anything that comes in from the government, you can run through pre-award. So we do recommend utilizing it for all those solicitations, not just the ones that require responses. And then you can use the analysis for when you do have a response required to track the financials and the clauses that are on your RFPs and your RFQs directly in your CLM system. You can coordinate with your proposal writers and your proposal team to make sure that everybody is on the same page about deadlines, as well as what needs to be included in the proposal, what the submission requirements are, and then finally manage negotiations and your TINA certification process and workflow directly inside your CLM. So we've got a couple of screens here to show you to see what pre-award looks like in both the Salesforce and in the Microsoft tool. So as we go through here, the Salesforce will be on your left-hand side, and the Microsoft will be on the right-hand side. The solicitation page allows you to track all of the government solicitations that have been released. So ideally, you would have one for everything. Your sources sought, your RFI, your RFP, your RFQ, they all are solicitations in the system. When it does require a reply, you can also manage here when the reply is due and what your status is on submitting that reply back to the government. Here is our proposal as it is deployed on Salesforce. This is how you manage your proposal effort, keep track of your proposal team members, which may not just be proposal writers, right? You've got contract team members, BD team members, people all across the organization who are assisting with the proposal, so this ensures you've got that team all in one place. It also allows you to manage your financials and your clauses to ensure that the proposal that you're writing is compliant and ensures that you complete reviews and approvals in a timely and efficient manner. This is what proposals look like deployed on Microsoft. The interface, very, very similar. The process is identical. Negotiations. This lets you track the back and forth of your final negotiation process with the government so that you can make sure that you have all of the negotiation process correctly documented for future compliance reasons. So if anybody comes back and needs this information, it is available in your CLM and also keeps your team up to date. Everybody knows what's going on. And then finally, TINA certifications. This ensures that you manage your TINA suite early on in the proposal process so you are prepared when you get to the very end of the process and are ready to submit documentation and sign. The value of pre-award management. Pre-award management does an excellent job at approving your ability to collaborate across teams. A lot of times the people who are managing these proposals are going to be in completely different departments and teams within the organization, and they need a singular place to all work together. It also allows you to accelerate cycle times. It ensures that you can respond to your requests and solicitations as quickly as possible and produce those proposal documents as quickly as possible. It also strengthens your compliance by ensuring that you're tracking clauses from the very beginning. So you're not just tracking clauses once you get to the final signing stage, you're actually tracking them at the very beginning with the RFP or the RFQ. And then finally, gaining visibility. Everyone in the organization, not those who are directly participating within the proposal writing process, but also your stakeholders, your executives, all have visibility to what's going on with all of the proposals that are going on within your organization, all of the solicitations that have come out, and where they are currently in the workflow. So, Transform Copilot for pre-award. Transform Copilot, as we saw in the previous session, is a tool that allows you to automatically bring data into your CLM without having to do loads of manual data entry. It also provides the ability to summarize the documentation. And what we've done for Transform Copilot pre-award is use that same exact tool, but with pre-award. And it's, instead of going into contracts, it's going into solicitations and proposals. The advantage to this is because it's the same wizard, the same user experience, you don't have to train people more than once. You train them once, they use the same tool in pre-award or in post-award. In addition to that, it also provides a really simple, intuitive way to document financial and clause information up front at the very beginning of the process, and also continue to maintain it throughout the process so that you're not doing all of that work at the very back end of the process in post-award. So now I'm going to turn it over to Kevin to do a demo of our Transform Copilot for pre-award tool.
Let's get to it. All right, let me find the, here we go. It's coming. It's coming. There it is, I passed it. Okay, all right, so where do we start in this process for Transform Copilot for pre-award? As we mentioned earlier, it's about bringing in the solicitation document. So inside of both Salesforce and Microsoft, we have these buttons, ingest solicitation. We've done this ahead of time, but I want to show you the process. The user could simply come in and ingest the solicitation. It comes up with a standard Transform Copilot wizard, which is our file upload wizard. The user selects the file that they have inside of here. So I've got a bunch of solicitations that I put in here. Here I have an RFP for a MATOC. I'm going to open that and submit that. And so what happens when you've done this is that this will immediately submit the document for processing. The user receives a notification email saying, thank you for processing. Thank you for sending it up. It's going to be processed. They get another one when it's done. But in the meantime, when they want to be able to manage all the jobs that are in process, we have a dashboard of all the jobs that an individual user has submitted to Transform Copilot, both Transform Copilot for pre-award as well as post-award. And you can see that it's pre-award. It says pre-award new. This document, this pre-award document, took roughly 9 minutes. I did this a little bit earlier today. And we're actually going to run through this process with you right now. So I'm going to go into this and open Transform Copilot for pre-award, and we're going to run through this process. So it's a little bit small on my laptop screen. Give me 1 second. And let me just see. Yeah, it's very small on the screen. Let me just zoom out and head off so I can actually see what I'm doing. All right, so let me zoom in here, and what I'm seeing on the left side is the document itself, the solicitation document, and I can go through the entire document and see the information that was found. I can open the document itself and actually get a whole PDF reader. I can highlight information in the document and see where this information came from. So the left side is the document, the right side is the fields that we want to be able to extract information from inside the solicitation document. And we use the solicitation number, the date issued, return by date, the time, and it defaults to a time zone. It's actually very, very important to know exactly we default to the Eastern time zone. And then other information that could be on here, may or may not be, including for information call, issued by, and the like. So standard information right from this solicitation document that we can ingest. And then we move next to creating the solicitation. This goes into the back end and says, where are my periods of performance? And if this is the sort of solicitation that's actually identified the periods of performance, it's found them, and it will then find the start and end date for each of those if it's in those documents. I do have the ability to add an additional period if something is missing, or I can easily delete it or modify the information that has been found. If the information had to be changed, I could change that or revert back. And so it's possible to go through this entire information, and then I can create the pops. So I'll put that back in and create. The next step is going to be the CLINs and SLINs. And so what I'm going to go through the document, it's going to identify all the CLINs and SLINs that were in the document. So what it's going to do, it says CLIN 1, CLIN 2, 3, 4, etc. And it's going to identify the period that it is attached to, the quantity, the job, and other relevant information that was here. And so I'm able to go through the entire document, review, see what's correct, see what's not, if anything had been incorrectly identified. Obviously, if I'm going through this document, I'm able to find and match against the original information that is boxed in on the left when I highlight inside of that field. So one quantity, one job, I'm able to see exactly where the information came from, so I could validate that. I could easily also add a CLIN or filter through them if I needed to find something in particular. So if I needed to find a particular CLIN, I could easily find that and get through the information, or find a keyword or some other context if I needed to validate along the way. And so this had found 15 of them along that entire process. And so we'll identify and create those CLINs. And next, it's going to try to identify the clauses inside of the document, ingest those clauses, and then compare those clauses to the library that we have from acquisition.gov, the FAR, the DFARs, the 28 federal agencies. And the time it takes to do this is a little bit dependent on the number of clauses. So this one, I think, has about 150 or so clauses in the document, and so it takes a few seconds for it to find it. And so what you're seeing is it extracted 156 clauses throughout the entire document. The first clause is down here, and it's a clause by full text. So what you're seeing is the number. You're seeing the revision date, the title, the text. It is matched against 100% because it found the appropriate number and date. And it found that it's only in the document once, and it's on page 14. We actually do identify when something's in a document more than once. You may have seen that in the CLIN, but we also do that in the clauses. And so the user now is able to see that we have identified and extracted and matched a whole range of these clauses against the clause library. So what your user can go through and validate, and if you click match, this is where you see the clause from the document on the left side, the information that was found, including the number, the date, the title, and the full text, which once again, even though we've matched against the number in the clause library, we're going to pull into the system to ensure if the full text is a fill-in-the-blank clause, that we retain that information. Either you can link it, which is replaced with the library clause, it links it, or you can accept the clause from the document, in which case it doesn't link it with the document. We'll keep it linked. So the user then is able to go through this entire document, see which clauses had been found, because they will be able to go page by page as necessary, and see which ones were found, which ones weren't, across the entire document. They will be highlighted, and so you know you've got it if there is a box around the clause number. This makes review of any given document much, much easier, because now you know what you've gotten and potentially what could be missed if it's malformed, or if information is missing and it doesn't recognize it as a clause. So when the user's done, user can simply go through and insert clauses. This will create two different records in the system. It will create a solicitation record to manage that solicitation overall. and it will create a proposal record. I think we're going to show that information in a little bit. So I'll go back to your. So I'll head back to your PowerPoint.
Okay, thank you, Kevin.
You're welcome.
So what we've done here is just put a side-by-side again of the Salesforce versus Dynamics of the data that's created during the process that Kevin just demonstrated. So first you get a solicitation created. This is the solicitation record. You can see there's the Transform Copilot ingested information, like for information call, who's issued the solicitation. Then moving on to the next slide, we'll see the proposal that was generated directly from that process as well. So the Transform Copilot is creating both a solicitation and a proposal record. And then in addition to that, on the proposal record, it is then adding your POPs, your CLINs, SLINs, and your clauses to the proposal so that it is all organized and in one place. Kevin's going to go ahead and demo. Oh, I'm sorry, this is the clauses screen. So this is what clauses look like deployed on Salesforce when they come in from Transform Copilot. Again, we have a separation between the clauses on the proposal that are a part of the clause library versus ones that are proposal specific, such as Section H clauses. And then on Dynamics as well, we have the same sort of interface tracking the same information. So then Kevin's going to demonstrate our POPs and CLINs SLIN tables for pre-award, which is a whole new tool that is not currently available in the pre-award management capability and is going to be rolled out.
So instead of always showing Salesforce, we decided let's go to Microsoft and show it because it's the same in both. So we're here, and let me go to refresh this record. It's been open for quite some time. And I have created several proposals in the system. So let me go to the periods of performance. It's pulling up a user experience that is new. We've really thought through and interacted with our clients and said, what sort of information, this one doesn't have it, let me find one that does. Here, this one has a period of performance on it. What sort of user experience does somebody want? So this was ingested using Transform Copilot. It didn't have a start date and end date, but it created this. And so we have created this new ability, this new interface that we control and we can change rapidly. The user has the ability, unlike a lot of our other widgets, that you can't change the columns that you see. You can actually do that here. You can decide I need and want to see specific columns, and we've made that possible here. You can actually change the columns that you would want to see and add those to the record. You can filter and sort very easily based on the criteria here. So we have this standard look and feel that we're trying to apply across every aspect to simplify adding new information. So if you needed to add a new period, you could very simply add a new period. We have set this thing up where you could enter in the appropriate dates. So let's just say that you did find that there was a period here, and it was, let's say, between November 1st, 25 and October 31st. I could save and add the information. And then when I add a new period, it's actually going to do the hard work for you. It'll enter the title already. It'll automatically increment the start and end date, trying to really save information. Instead of people hand jamming a lot of that stuff, it's going to assume based on previous information about what you really need to enter. If you are going to have to enter things manually, we want to make it as easy as possible. And that doesn't happen just on the POP screen, that also happens on the CLIN screen. So individual CLIN screens, we can track all the information. Here it's just the obligated amounts that could be in some of the solicitations. Otherwise it's information that you'd want to be able to put in. And once again, you can easily add the CLINs and SLIN data here. This data is in this new interface is gathered through Transform Copilot and pushed into your CRM, but we really wanted to enhance that user experience for everyone. Knowing, after talking with a whole bunch of you and finding the difficulty in the way we've having had to add this stuff before, we wanted to make it really simple about being able to select a period, being able to put in an appropriate amount, being able to select these fields. Users asked us to make it as easy as possible. And so that's what we've done here. We've made it as easy as possible. Again, it's easier to filter, to sort, and be able to find the data that you're looking for in any of these tables. So we wanted to make sure that you saw that. It's there in Salesforce and in Microsoft on the proposal record. Okay, I'll go back to your, you're welcome, I'll go back to your deck.
Okay, so now we're going to talk about the summaries. Summaries. So similar to what I talked about in the last session, we do have contract summaries available for solicitations as well, so solicitation summaries, if you will. These summaries help you analyze the solicitation with an automated synopses that you can then share out with your organization. These synopses focus on a review of the solicitation document, any POPs, CLINs, and SLINs that may be contained in the RFP or RFQ, any clauses and key clauses that have been identified, any important data points such as addresses, points of contact, labor categories, wage determinations, and then an overall risk analysis of the solicitation document. You can easily keep your stakeholders informed by sharing the summary out, but the summary is also going to be immediately available on the solicitation and on the proposal record. And you can also speed up your reviews and analyses because the synopses actually give you an idea of the overall contract. You don't have to read the solicitation document in order to understand whether or not you want to move forward and pursue. The synopses can give you that information, and you can also use this in combination with Mila to generate additional executive summaries to roll out to your stakeholders. So this is just a couple of examples of what the summaries look like. So on the first image, we have the executive summary. So this is an overall solicitation summary that I generated from a solicitation I pulled off sam.gov. And next to that, you can see the documentation of all of the POPs that were included in the document. Then we have the CLIN/SLIN analysis. So this particular document was an IDIQ. It did not have any specific CLIN/SLIN values, but it did have a contract ceiling. And so it's identified that here and given me that information so that I can easily share that. My clauses and other changes. So on the clauses side, you can see it's identified the key clauses that my organization has specifically called out in our clause library as being the most important ones to us. Put that in a neat little table for me so that I can easily recognize, oh, these key clauses are in this document. I need to be aware of those and share that with my stakeholders. On the other changes, it's displaying all of those key important data points that are probably buried somewhere in the solicitation document on page 25, 62, wherever it happens to be, and it's pulling it out into one simple screen. Very succinct, very short. And then finally, the risk analysis. Is the scope well defined on the solicitation? Do we have clearly defined timelines and deliverables? Analyzing the document for that information and letting you know whether or not we have enough info in the solicitation, or do we need to go back to the government and ask more questions? All right, so let's talk about Mila. We are very excited to roll this out. I think when we get to the demo, you will see why. But Mila is your digital assistant to help expand your AI capabilities. This experience helps ease the utilization of AI through natural conversation, which means that all of the people in your organization who have difficulty with utilizing AI because of the complexity of the tools, well, they just have to chat with it, just like they might chat with a friend. So this helps expand our Transform Copilot capabilities beyond the key 4 components that we're currently extracting from Transform Copilot and extract additional data and continue to develop other artifacts. So why Mila? Conversational assistance, as I mentioned, it doesn't really require training, and it's already been pre-trained to act like a contract manager. So it speaks to you in your industry lingo and based off of what's in the document from a point of knowledge. It also allows for simple data retrieval, so you can ask it simple questions. Where's the place of performance? What is the NICS code? Grabs information that may be buried somewhere in the document. Instead of having to go out and find it, you can get that question answered in a few seconds. It also has the ability to generate tables and proposal artifacts. So you can ask it to, for example, generate a table of your labor category and rates, or generate a table of all of the wage determinations in the documents. Generate additional information like breaking down your evaluation criteria and instructions. It can also create organized structures of that data, so you can ask it to create a table that is ordered based off of the importance of the evaluation criteria, and then also give you an evaluation of how complicated that particular evaluation is going to be. it definitely has a lot of flexibility here on what it can do. So I wanted to talk a little bit about how you can improve your experience with Mila. Yes, you can talk to Mila as if it's just a contract manager on your team, as if it's any team member. You can ask them simple questions. It does not require any complex training on how to utilize AI in order to be used effectively. However, if you were in any of the morning sessions, you may have heard that one of the big things about AI is not so much just the data that you are working with, but also the question you're asking to the data. The question is really important, how you structure it, how it's organized. And so in order to utilize Mila in the most effective way possible, I just put together a couple of recommendations here that you guys might all find useful when you're chatting with a digital assistant. So for example, I have 2 sample prompts here that I've put together that work very effectively with Mila. The first is for evaluation criteria, and the second is for document submission requirements. Now, yes, you can ask Mila a very simple question: what are the evaluation criteria? And it will give you a reasonable, easy to understand answer. However, that answer is not going to be formatted. It's going to just be a list of what the evaluation criteria were that were identified in the document. But if I give it more specifics, I want an ordered table. It should be ordered based off of most important to least important. I would like a title for each of these criteria. I would like a description. That description should perhaps be a certain number of characters if I'm trying to provide this as an executive summary, or maybe I would like it to be as much information as it's able to provide. So in this example, I did not provide a number of characters. Instead, I asked it to describe the factor in great detail. And then also I added an additional table for the citation so that I know where to find the explicit information in the document when I'm going to compare it to the information Mila gave me. For the document submission, it's very similar. So by asking it to do extra steps for me, I'm saving time for myself. So I've put a little bit extra effort into the question so that I get the most effective response. Kevin's going to go ahead and demo Mila.
We'll do 2 things. Actually, I'm going to copy one of these so we can see exactly what the difference is when you ask a really good question. So let's demo this live. We love live demos. All right, so we're going to demo it on a contract here. Here I have it's a contract outlines requirements for electronic health record. So I go into Mila, and it's going to load the document. And it's going to say, hi. Let me make this a little bit smaller so I can see it. It's been sitting here quite some time. Okay, you can ask me anything about this. It's a delivery order on the contract. And so we can just start off. Let's say you're a new user. You don't even know what to ask. Give me a table of questions I can ask. Make them 15 words, right, or less. And so it knows, it has the context because here in particular has provided the context. So like, what sorts of questions can you ask? Well, we're going to have an FAQ that goes along with this, so we actually have formatted questions as part of training, so you know what to be able to do. But a lot of people just want to be able to ask these sorts of questions. So here what are the entrance criteria for developmental test and evaluation? Just ask one question, see what's there. Okay. Okay, and what it's doing here is I didn't ask it to format it, so how about I just do this, use a table. Yeah, there you go. And so what it's done is it provides the entrance criteria and the description and the exact page in the document where that information was found. So you very easily, if you know what you're looking for, can extract a substantial amount of information in a way that is very useful for you. So that you can ask very complex questions, you could ask relatively simple questions. If we did actually ask, what is the NAICS code? We'll see what happens. What is the NAICS code? It does not contain it. It does not have the NAICS code in that document, which is actually not unusual, right? So it doesn't happen to have that one. But if I wanted to ask a more complicated set of questions, I could ask all those sorts of questions. I really don't have any real issues. Like, okay, what are the requirements for testing, safety system plans? You have specific details. If you were to say, what is the purpose of this document? No more than 50 words. So you need something very particular to summarize this. It can then go through and use AI in the way that you would expect. The purpose of this document is to outline the order for supplies under the contract, detailing the delivery of the electronic health record system, its testing, sustainment, and associated management. So it pulled that from a specific area. Please, you got a question?
I do. When you scrolled up, it said that the contract was unlocked. Does it have to be unlocked to use Mila?
So no, it does not. In fact, let me show you exactly where that is, whether it's locked or not. So that's a great question. So the way we've done this, just for everyone's, how this works is a user will ingest the solicitation or ingest the contract, as in case it's a contract. And so it is basically setting up the contract or setting up the award, and that information is there. But it persists after the fact. So let me show you where that would live here for this mod. So if I go to a mod table, where we have on a contract a mod table, and I actually go to the mod itself, it's going to load up the same exact information. We don't have this set up to record the chat, so you're going to see that's going to start a new chat. We will have it set up so that the user can retain the chat over time. But here, welcome. Now I got a bigger screen. Now I can play with a lot more data. You have a much wider table if you wanted to, and handle very different sorts of questions. But yes, now this is permanent. The way we have this set up today for the initial version is that a user using Transform Copilot, pre-award, award, can ask questions of that particular document. Going forward, we'll enhance this dramatically, but right now it's this one particular document.
And if you only have read-only rights to the contract, can you still use Mila, or do you have to have like?
Correct. This does not write data to the record at this time. When we get to the point where Mila is able to directly insert information into the contract or solicitation, which we will have, right? We'll have the ability to do that. Then that's a different discussion, because then that is clearly a write privilege, right? So here it's just a chat privilege, which is not aligned with the read-write privilege inside of the contract or solicitation at this time, or proposal at this time.
Can it deal with other document formats, like an Excel where there's pricing instructions embedded?
Right now we want a PDF, but if you printed it to PDF, it would be able to handle it. It would understand that. The eventual goal here for Mila, because I think people want Mila, right? It's not just Transform Copilot, it's Mila. The eventual goal is that you will have your documents tied to a solicitation record. You'll have your documents tied to a proposal record. When you've put them in your SharePoint, your Box, or TechnoMile's own capability for storing documents, we will embed those documents and you'll be able to chat. And the context in which you live, we'll show this a little bit later in detail, the context in which you live. You go to the contract record and you go, I want to see all the documents. I want to be able to search the documents and data on this record. Well, it's going to scan through the data that's on the record and the documents associated to that record and be able to ask questions of it. So being able to change context depends on where the user is. The user's on the contract. You don't want to have to say, I want to ask questions of this contract and all its mods. No, you go into the system, you go to the contract record, and it knows that's what you're looking for. You're going to get those documents. So the eventual answer is yes. This version that we're showing you right now is for one document as part of Transform Copilot. Frankly, we want your feedback, right? We want people to adopt this. We want people to use this. We want people to provide feedback to us about what's really valuable, how this should work, how it should be changed. So you're the third person today to come up to me or talk to me and ask, can I use this for a broad set of records? Yes, that's our aim, but not the initial version. All right. Did you want to ask anything in particular to Mila?
I want to ask Mila a question.
Yeah. If not, we'll just we'll move on.
Ask something simple. What's the place of performance? So one of the things that I like about Mila is that it helps me fill out my contract information as well. So I can ask it questions for the fields that I'm trying to populate, and when it's on the main contract screen, I can actually have Mila open on one side, the contract on the other, and I can just put in the data as I ask the questions without having to search the document. And I think that is extremely helpful.
Yeah, you didn't know which document this was. You asked a question where there were multiple places of performance, and it provides all of them as opposed to a table. So it seems like a simple question, complex answer, but it got the answer right away. So, excellent. All right, we'll head back to your PowerPoint. There we go. One second.
just to recap on our topic here, supercharging your pre-award analysis, we're going to supercharge solicitation intake and risk analysis through 3 main steps. First, saving significant time on your CLIN, SLIN, and clause data entry, so eliminating hours of manual entry, creating more informed pricing approaches and a better capture strategy, and preparing your team for effective compliance management, both for pre-award and post-award. So you're ready much earlier in the process, basically. Improving your team's understanding of the solicitation with the summaries, so accelerating your risk assessments, as well as ensuring that you are able to generate a compliant proposal, and maximizing the effectiveness of your team members by keeping them informed at all times. And finally, leveraging AI to streamline the analysis and document preparation process. So using Mila to gather additional intelligence that's not currently available via Transform Copilot from your documents, and deepening your understanding of those solicitations in order to unlock new efficiencies by generating documentation directly from Mila, which will assist you in your proposal writing and your review processes. So, do we have questions? Oh, so many.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
When looking at a solicitation, sometimes you get a draft and then a final solicitation. And can this? You mentioned that it can only look at one document now, but in the future, is it the plan that it will give you a summary of the changes between those 2 documents?
Absolutely, yes.
You showed a grid where you could change the view on the fly. Is that going to be more readily available throughout the entire system? Was that just an iframe that was
No, that's Transform Copilot for pre-award. That's the first application where we have provided our new UI UX we discussed this morning. It's our first application that we're pushing into the CRMs. So it's potentially a radical change for a lot of our customers. And so what we're doing is thinking very carefully before pushing. Given that very few customers of ours have adopted this proposal, it's a great place for us to put it and get feedback right away. We want to have a standardized experience. We want to do that, but we need to get feedback because now we're going to change something for thousands of people. We really have to be very careful.
Well,
about
I would still want it to be under my control as the admin of the system,
Yes,
but
yes.
I wouldn't want to have to roll another version or import new solutions in order to be able to do it. So this would be fantastic.
Yeah, that's what, and so we really wanted the ability to have much more flexibility on your side, yes.
I know you mentioned right now there's a 1 document limitation, but a lot of our proposals will come out with amendments or addendums. If we were to synchronize that into 1 large document, is there a capacity limitation?
Ooh, that's a really good question. There will be on a singular document, there is going to be a limitation, and we will make sure to communicate that when we release it. But when we're talking about multiple documents, that's a whole other thing. Honestly, Mila will, even though it only allows you to chat with 1 document at a time, if you load your amendments in the system or your modifications in the system, you can go to that specific amendment or modification and talk with that document. So say, for example, you have a solicitation and 5 amendments, you can talk to each document separately with Mila by going to the particular amendment or the particular solicitation. So it's not like 1 document per solicitation, it's just 1 document chatting with at a time. And then as we expand this, you'll be able to talk to all of them all at once and then start comparing information across them. That's going to be one of our early updates that we'll do hopefully next year.
I think your sort of question you have is like you get a solicitation on PIEE and there's 16 different documents. Yeah. Because they love doing this for,
Oh, absolutely.
I don't know why.
Case in point, we have a proposal that goes out tomorrow where we've got 6 CLINs, and then in this other document you have the names of the roles that should be on those CLINs, and then in the other document you have that each of those CLINs is going to be this component of remote and this component of in-person. And as the proposal manager or as the capture manager, part of your job is to splice that out and to make sure that we are recruiting effectively, or we are writing to effectively. So I would want to ask Mila a question. I
Yes.
would into ChatGPT now and I say, look at these 5 documents, make me a table of all of that.
that's what we plan on doing. It's the same question as before, that if they were in the same place, you'd be able to search across them. Today, if you stitch them together, I think there's a 100 megabyte limit on them.
100 megabytes and approximately 1,000 pages. It depends on how many tables and images are in the document.
That's a temporary, until we can figure out how to let the user change the context to broaden or narrow, that's the limitation.
That's incredibly helpful.
Question, you showed where when you ingested the document, and so it kind of spends, what's your average time on that? And then you said it would send the user an email when it was complete. Can it integrate with Teams and actually just do a Teams message instead of a full email?
Not yet, the Teams. The Teams part is a not yet. That's a great ask. So at this point, we are sending these emails from our platform, and the amount of time is proportional to the length of the document, but really it's proportional to the number of CLINs and the number of clauses that are in the document, because you could have a whole bunch of garbage in the back and it's going to go no, and it goes through really quickly. But a document that has 300 CLINs, it has 55 clauses, that could take 15 minutes. I mean, that's a reasonable amount. If anything, if it's going to keep on spinning, we have the ability for you to delete and just let us know, because we're constantly Maya and I, we're constantly engaged with Transform Copilot. We have lived Transform Copilot all year, and so we are very happy to engage and find specific documents. You got a problem, let's figure it out.
I'm going to push you a little further. Is there further vision to look across records, not just across documents on a record, but across records?
Yes.
Okay,
so the first stage, our prototype stage, is one document. Second stage is I got the data in the document. Third stage would be all the relevant child records. So if you have a contract, the mods too. But now, because the mods are separate records in our system. So now I have all the documents and live in that context. Third might very well be, well, I'm going to kick off all the other agents that we can show. But eventually I get to the point where I could see more. But what you have then accomplished, which is what we're really after, is a AI global search of your entire system. That's basically what we wound up creating. We want to make this step by step. So this is the first step, but the eventual goal, as you see, is an entire agentic global search.
Just to clarify, notice that you had a report of the risks in a SAO. Let's say it's not clear, those kind of things. Does that marry up with the contract type of that solicitation? Does it take into account that this is a firm fixed price, a firm fixed price opportunity, and here's the scope of work? So given both those, does it kind of marry up the risks?
We'll have to check on the nature of the prompt, actually, because that's the extent of the prompt engineering. So the risk would not be, it's not inherent, right? We have to basically instruct it what it is. We wrote that prompt a long time ago. I don't recall exactly what's in it. So, but that's something we would definitely have to test and be able to validate and change. TechnoMile, the product team, we own the prompts, and we write them up. So if something is missing, we can definitely alter it.
Is there different risks for different contract types?
Yep.
That helps us.
Okay, thank you.
With our assumptions.
I think we have time for one more question.
All right, great. Does Mila run in the tenant, or would the data be leaving the tenant in order to be able to do all this cool stuff?
So it's a great question. So Mila, today, since it's not, you send a document to Transform Copilot, which is on our platform. So you send to our FedRAMP moderate equivalent platform, you send the document, and the embedding of the document remains in TechnoMile's FedRAMP moderate equivalent platform. And so that widget that you see is in our platform at this time. That widget lives and it calls that widget. So in the tenant versus in the platform, we really put our platform on top of, as a window on top of the tenant hooked in. So it's a complicated answer to the question of, you sent it to us first. And we have used that data, the metadata we've sent back to the record, right? We've sent that back, that's there. But when you ask a question, that's not inside of Salesforce, it's not inside of Microsoft, that's inside of TechnoMile. All right, that's it. Thank you very much. I really appreciate the engaging questions.